जो project management था उसमें okay, here we are live. So 50 orders a day, and suddenly it became one of the most उनके लिए जो पूरा वो project management 101 में आप इस पूरे कोविड टाइम में उनको काफी सीखने को मिला इनके उनको स्ट्रेस टाइमिंग के ऊपर किस तरह अपनी टीम को मैनेज करना होगा ऑर्डर्स की डिलीवरी को किस तरह टाइमली इंश्योर करना होगा दिस वाज अ वेरी ग्रेट एक्सरसाइज फॉर देम
Yeah, true.
So
I think this could be a session on its own, Danish. The whole
yeah.
COVID business and service industry in the time of COVID. I look forward to that session.
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss it with Umar actually. इसको करवाना जरूरी है. There's so many research अभी तक collateral हमारे पास नहीं आया. We had discussion with a couple of people related to climate change कि कितना difference आ रहा है pollution के ऊपर. And they were saying कि कोई data नहीं है हमारे पास अभी तक. International, by the way, I'm talking about people in Amsterdam sitting and saying we don't have a lot of data about this whole lockdown and the climate impact. So I don't know how much research we need to conduct at this point of time. Maybe a lot in order to see the overall impact of COVID in these 4 months.
Well, somebody gave me a very sobering figure yesterday. The gentleman's quite into research, and he said that I don't know if this is correct or not, but he said that Pakistan ki jo total employable population hai, that ranges about 30 to 35 million at any given time. If you take out the old and the young and all of that, उसमें से on average 5 से 6 million unemployed रहते हैं at any given time. But they're expecting that another 10 to 12 million will eventually be unemployed by the end of June out of that 30 million. That is more than half of your total employable. If these numbers are correct, again, I'm giving the disclaimer. Somebody's, but I mean that is a very sobering figure. कि अगर आपकी आधी employed force जो है और other employable force जो है वो out of work हो जाती है, so the knock-on effects of that are going to be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Imran Khan, right, is to some extent that apart from COVID, there is a lot of implications of lockdown, which is people will die from hunger. Then we see a lot of researches into the IMF is saying for in the 70 years is the first our economy will shrink rather than grow. So COVID will have long-lasting impact, and we'll see that in the years to come, probably.
Cool. And I hope that that a lot of multinationals will review their targets. Like Jack Ma said that this year is not for profitability but more for survival. So keeping that in mind, I hope the brands as well as any owner or any entrepreneur will revisit their business target for the year 2020 or probably year 21 as well. That includes us, that includes the brands, everybody. So we'll see कि किस तरह चीजें हो रही हैं, किस तरह चलती हैं. So I think in the next 30 seconds, let's start the session as well so that we can take things up from there. Yeah?
Yeah. Sure, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. पानी वानी पी ले एक दफा अच्छी तरह करारे कर लीजिए और चाय
पिए चाय
देखो आप लोग पहले एसएन के तारीख के फौरन बाद इफ्तारी के फौरन बाद पाकिस्तान स्टैंडर्ड एक्टिविटीज कप ऑफ टी और फॉर सम बॉयज सुट्टा अच्छा जी चलो let's start off. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Danish Ijaz, and we are going to have this very interesting session that is going to be about brands spending millions of advertising during grand events like PSL or any other. उसके ऊपर हम उसकी the good, the bad and the ugly के ऊपर आज थोड़ी सी discussion करेंगे और कुछ इस किस्म की conversation होगी कि हम उसको जितना learning experience बना सकते हैं वो बनाएंगे. And this week, we have, mashallah, another very interesting group of people that we have with us. We have Mr. Hassan Ansari, who's the CEO of Dunwell. By the way, since we didn't ask anybody to give their profile, so it was my wholesome responsibility to actually go on LinkedIn profile of each and every one of you and start getting myself introduced to you over there. So I was really impressed with each and every one of your profile. Nofal, though I know for almost 9 years now.
Yeah,
So
10 years.
Nofal, हाँ तो नौफल का और मेरा जो है वो इंटरेक्शन काफी डिफरेंट है but hats off to your efforts and hats off to your initiatives that you've been taking in your own individual capacity, each and every one of you, and I'm really thankful for you. I'm really glad that we are sitting today in this session and we are talking to each other. So Hassan is started his career almost 15 years ago from ABN AMRO, and from there he went to Argus, and then he has his own very outstanding journey in different departments. He has experienced each and every department and learned the what's and the whatnot. And then now he's representing Dunwell Communications, the digital wing of Argus, if I'm not wrong, and it's an
Absolutely, yes.
independent entity on its own. And Hassan is now the CEO of the organization, and that itself is a great journey and requires another session to it. I personally think that you can come over and talk about how you started from one position and then your journey took you to Dunwell. Inshallah, we'll look forward to that. Then we have Fiza Shah. Fiza Shah is creative director of Saatchi and Saatchi, another very inspiring organization when it comes to the full number of brands that IL Saatchi and Saatchi has taken. In my opinion, the very first advertising agency that actually became a regional office for brands, PNG के ऊपर, और उसके बाद Ogilvy took the same lead by becoming regional agency for Mondelez. But benchmark setting, mein, IL and Saatchi has their role. They've been doing a lot of amazing stuff in terms of communication and advertising as well. So after Fiza, we have Shahzad Deshmukh. Shahzad has 7 year plus very interesting experience of multiple brands from Dabur to Dalda and from Dalda to Tapal. So the DDT of the whole advertising has been completed by Shahzad over there. And the way you have actually, I personally think it's a very focused uh, journey that you had. You were focused on family. You're focused on the things that are just within the household of the family, and that I'm looking forward for your insights based on that we are going to be listening to today on this. We have Fiza Shahid. Fiza is a very young, flaring uh, person in the group. 7 years plus in Starcom, mashallah, and you've been working on different accounts, different areas that she's focused on. And right now, one of my personal favorites, she's working on fintech and fintech wala side, and that is actually one of the most innovative sections in Pakistan in Starcom. So looking forward to hear from your insights as well, Fiza, and let's hope that we get the best out of it. Last but not least, Mr. Nopal uh, initiated Kachi Goliyan back in 2012. I still remember. I still call it digital time with the first and the very most engaging content done by Pakistan at any given day, at any given time. Hands down, Kachi Goliyan जैसी कोई चीज नहीं आई हमारे पास. Um, and Nofil and Ramesh have done a lot of tremendous work in terms of comic industry in Pakistan. They actually made the comic industry in Pakistan the way it should be. And unfortunately, उसकी sustainability उस तरह नहीं हो सकी जिस तरह होनी चाहिए थी. But we have seen the rise of that industry in a very amazing way. So with this very powerful group, let me initiate the topic today. Let me share a story, a very interesting one. In 2003, जब पाकिस्तान में वर्ल्ड कप हुआ था, तो पाकिस्तान टोबैको ने अपनी एडवर्टाइजिंग लॉबी के थ्रू इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग पीसीबी के साथ रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड किया कि लेक्टन टोबैको को पूरे मैच में सिर्फ ग्राउंड के अंदर एक 6x6 फीट की ब्रांडिंग की ऑप्शन मिली, और वो भी ग्राउंड के बिल्कुल दूसरे कोने में 6x6 फीट का ग्राउंड उनको दिया गया और बोला गया आप यहाँ अपना स्टॉल लगा लो. सो लेक्सन टोबैको को इसका मतलब है उसको मार्केटिंग स्पेंड भी सबसे कम करना पड़ रहा था. वो पाकिस्तान टोबैको की तरह इतने कोई मेगा पैसे खर्च नहीं कर रहा था, लेकिन अब वो 6x6 फीट में ऐसा क्या करें कि उनकी ब्रांड भी दिखे, और उस वक्त जो उनका मोवन गोल्ड जो उनका चैंपियन ब्रांड था वो हाईलाइट हो रहा हो, और साथ ही साथ उनकी ब्रांड को हाईलाइट हो. अब ये वो सिनेरियो है कि अगर मैं अभी इस वक्त अगर अब किसी भी एजेंसी को किसी भी ब्रांड टीम को दूं, तो इट विल डेफिनेटली बिकम अ ह्यूज चैलेंज फॉर देम. There's no denial for that. It was a challenge for them, even at that point of time. But they came up with something really smart and really, really innovative, which became talk of the town at that point of time. What they did was, उन्होंने 40 फुट का एक पिलर खड़ा किया और उस पिलर के ऊपर उन्होंने मोबाइल गोल्ड की पहाड़ी की ब्रांडिंग लगा दी और कहा कि इस पे जो छक्का मारेगा हम उसको को ₹1,000,000 या 10 million rupees या आई थिंक 10 लाख या 1 करोड़ रुपए आपको इनाम देंगे. एंड एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम आफरीदी ने इतनी कोशिश की थी उस पर छक्के मारने की कि आपकी सोच है वो ज्यादातर आउट ही इसी वजह से होता था क्योंकि वो वहां छक्का मारने की कोशिश कर रहा होता था. दैट स्मार्ट मार्केटिंग, nobody talked about Pakistan tobacco as much as people talk about the Lexington tobacco marketing strategy at this point of time. So with that kind of mindset, when I see PSL, मेरा थोड़ा सा जो है ना वो I don't know, I get anxiety probably because we see a lot of on your face marketing, we see a lot of irrelevant branding. In my opinion, again, you can say that I may be wrong. So where did we go wrong? So let's pick up this question, or let's say where have we evolved to, and why is it necessary that this evolution came? So we'll start with Shehzad, and then Fiza Shahid, Nofil, and Hassan can contribute to it. And in that meantime, let's do one thing कि जो बात कर रहा है सिर्फ उसका माइक ऑन रहे, बाकी सब म्यूट कर ले ताकि फिर जो बीच में नॉइज आ रहा है ये बंद हो जाए. ठीक है. So Shehzad, in your opinion, what went wrong or where did we evolve to?
So, well, right off the bat, if you talk about the forum, is advertising in PSL effective? I believe personally it is. But as you rightly said, you have to be very relevant to the audience in terms of the content. So the content really is important. You surely get eyeballs. That's why a lot of brands tend to invest in PSL, and you see a lot of viewership as well. And in the numbers as well, you see a approximate 8 to 12% increase in usage in minutes from the audience point of view. If you talk about investment as well, the investment has grown over the years in PSL, and especially this year around when the PSL came home, it was approx in terms of AdX, to give you a number, approx 1.9 billion was invested in terms of AdX behind PSL, which is a huge number, and it has grown approx by 3% versus a year ago. So why brands invest? Because there are eyeballs, and as we as marketeers tend to follow the eyeballs, so it makes a lot of sense. As far as your question is concerned, where we went wrong, and now it depends brand to brand. How do you fit in? What's your content? How seamlessly you fit in into the overall ambit of PSL or any event that you are sponsoring? That has a very important role to play.
Okay, but don't you think that the overall creativity of the section somewhere faded, Shehzad?
Well, because everybody wants to join the bandwagon, so that's every brand is seeing, everybody's participating in PSL. Every brand or every marketing company wants to be in PSL. Hence, probably the creativity side has deteriorated. But on the other hand, you see a lot of good examples of creativity as well. To mention a few, you see Head and Shoulders, Move a Million, which is a very good creative execution, which was an on-ground execution, which was noticed by the audience and still has a very good recall. If you talk about Uber Run, if you talk about Tapal integration into PSL, so there are both the sides. There are creative executions which were very good, and there were certain which was below par as well. And that happens in anything. So you hit some, you miss some wala situation. Hota hai, har scenario mein hota hai. There are certain TVCs as well which are very good. Then there are which are a miss as well. So creativity wise, you are absolutely right. There is still room to improve.
जी फिजा शाह, आप बताइए. What do you think about?
I would just like to sort of build on what you were saying. I also sort of agree to the point कि हम लोग जो है वो relevance जो है ना वो कहीं कहीं मुझे miss लगती. like Shahzad was also saying, everyone is jumping on that bandwagon, and मतलब आपकी relevance हो PSL से या ना हो, brands को सिर्फ visibility उस point पे चाहिए होती है, which is why they sort of do in extensive sort of advertising, yeah, spend so much money. And I think if we also refer to global case studies, Super Bowl is also a very big example जहाँ पे जो है हमारी इसी level की जो है ना आपकी advertising, and it's almost like competition. मतलब as a creative, we look forward to the Super Bowl advertising because it's so inspiring, और वो इतनी out of the box चीजें लेके आ रहे हैं. But more and more, I think over there as well, people and the brands have sort of realized that the amount of money that they're spending is outrageous. So they sort of started to look for alternatives. So I would just like to share an interesting example. So Skittles का brand obviously सबको पता है, बड़ी उनकी playful advertising होती है. तो उन्होंने कहा कि यार हम लोग जो है ना ad बनाएंगे सुपर बोल का, लेकिन जो देखने वाला होगा वो सिर्फ एक व्यूअर होगा. So they made a customized ad for just one viewer, one kid who was, I don't know, somewhere in Los Angeles or somewhere. And उन्होंने कस्टमाइज एड उसकी जो है ना पूरी जर्नी को, एंड no one else will be seeing that Super Bowl ad apart from that one kid. And वो उसके घर पे उन्होंने शूट किया, उसी फैमिली को इन्वॉल्व किया. But what they got out from that campaign was a lot of talkability apart from Super Bowl itself. So the news was covering it, like the channels were doing broadcasts about it. So without paying that much money directly, they had such a great idea. So I think as a creative, we sort of look at these campaigns and get inspired, and we sort of look for smart solutions, if I were to put it that way, कि कोई स्मार्ट तरीका. आई थिंक जो आपने लैक्सन या टोबैको कंपनी की जो एग्जांपल शेयर की, उसमें भी आई थिंक वो चैलेंज उन्होंने इसी तरीके से टैकल किया कि यार हमारे पास इतनी स्पेस है, हम उसमें क्या ऐसा करें कि जो है ना हम छतें फाड़ दें. So I think going forward, I just feel that we should also look for creative solutions rather than just जो रन ऑफ द मिल हम करते हैं कि यार अब PSL का एड बनाना है तो उसमें हम दिखा दें कि यंग लोग बैठ के जो है ना वो क्रिकेट देख रहे हैं, मैच देख रहे हैं. So some sort of new perspective should be added, and definitely we should get inspired by Super Bowl advertising. So that's my 2 cents for this.
जी फिजा शाहिद, क्योंकि मैं जो एग्जांपल कोट करने वाला था वो मसला ये है कि वो बड़ी ऑकवर्ड हो जाती है. लाइक इस PSL में हमने देखा था वो एक बहुत अच्छा एड बहुत अच्छा बना था, लेकिन जो उसमें एंड में जो एक्शन डाला था, चले मैच देखते हैं, और उसके बाद दूसरा TVC लग जाता था, मैच नहीं आता था. एंड दैट एक्चुअली रूइंड द होल फिनोमेनन कि यार व्हाट आर यू डूइंग, वो स्मार्टनेस ऑफ advertising, that edge, that sharpness of creativity was literally thrown out of the window to commit suicide by free falling.
So the example that you mentioned, I think it would have worked great if the placement was just a little more suited to the content that was shown in the ad. But जो आपने session के शुरू में example share की, which was from 2003, that was a very good example. But and you're right, a lot of brands have come in to the advertising space now, and maybe one of the reasons why you remember that instance is probably because at that point in time, maybe that many brands and advertisers were not trying to occupy the same share of mind as we have the situation right now. We have a plethora of brands who are trying to appeal to the same audience, who are trying to get their share of mind, and who are trying to vie for the maximum share of voice. So if I were to address the topic at hand, which is is spending on advertising during PSL effective? So in terms of the kind of viewership PSL attracts, in terms of the kind of attention PSL attracts, in terms of how the whole nation rallies together when PSL is happening, it's definitely effective. जहां पे फिर बात आती है, देखिए दो चीजें, एक है आपने मैसेज क्या कम्युनिकेट करना है, और फिर एक है आपने किस जगह पे कम्युनिकेट करना है. सो किस जगह पे कम्युनिकेट करना, द प्लेटफॉर्म इज PSL, एंड वी नो द होल नेशन ट्यून्स इनटू इट. वी नो कि कराची से लेके पेशावर से लेके लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद, everybody is really invested in it. So we know people are watching, we know we have the eyeballs. Message creativity, context, and relevance are things that we can obviously we continue to work on. But we have seen some good examples, like Shehzad mentioned, and there have been some hits and misses as well. But I believe as an industry, PSL makes sense for a lot of advertisers, because a lot of advertisers want to appeal to a large segment of population. They want their attention, and if your brand objectives kind of align to PSL, it definitely makes sense.
Fair enough. Thank you. Ispe, just to add on, I saw Anglo doing some really amazing work, but surprisingly not in the ground, if you notice this. Their branding was limited to the campaigns that they were doing. They made, of course, they made TVCs and that were Koita Gladiator branded. But
Mm-hmm.
what they focused was more towards engaging people on ground and building more hype in terms of how they're going to be working with people and branding altogether. They picked it up as a corporate activity rather than a marketing activity. Probably that was one of the major difference,
Yes.
because since they don't have a brand marketing department, that they have a corporate marketing department. So वहाँ पे उनका focus engagement ज़्यादा था, ना कि आपके जो normal एक brand manager के जो KPIs होते हैं उससे वो different था. And they went digital but overboard that nobody else I saw. Peshawar Zalmi, of course, their style is always different and they go in a very different tangent altogether. But we didn't see anything going like Engro did. So don't you think कि कहीं पे हम बहुत ज्यादा टनल्ड हैं, बहुत ज्यादा फोकस हैं, या अपने आप को एक वो होराइजन में पैक किया हुआ कि नहीं यार इससे आगे बाहर निकल के नहीं देखना. हसन, this is going to go towards you, तो आप बताइए इसमें.
Thank you, Danish. Yeah, I agree with you. Just to build upon something that Shazad said in the beginning, and then Fiza was also talking about, there is this tendency to get on the bandwagon. The bandwagon of PSL के हमें भी वहाँ होना है, we don't want to be left out. And I feel जो ये creativity की एक जो stumbling block आ रहा है या जो problem आ रहा है ना, it is because कि हम strategy led advertising नहीं कर रहे हैं PSL में. हम ये नहीं सोच रहे कि मेरा brand A है, मुझे क्यों PSL का हिस्सा बनना है, क्या मेरे brand की कोई relevance बनती है या नहीं बनती है. So Fiza mentioned the Super Bowl, right? There are numerous studies which will show that if they advertise beer on the Super Bowl, तो तमाम sporting events पे beer की sale बढ़ जाती है. Now Apple also advertises at the Super Bowl. उनके iPhone की sale शायद उस तरह नहीं बढ़ती होगी, but they are getting a brand advantage out of it, right? Unfortunately, and this might upset some people, but हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है कि मीडिया जो है, not to name anybody, but मीडिया का फोकस होता है भाई इतने करोड़ रुपए की प्रॉपर्टी मुझे बेचनी है. क्लाइंट की एक ये होता है कि यार आई वांट टू गेट ऑन बोर्ड, व्हाट्स अवेलेबल मुझे बताओ, फोर्स अवेलेबल है, सिक्सेस अवेलेबल है क्या नहीं है. एंड एजेंसी का सैडली एंड में यह माइंडसेट हो जाता है भाई अपना कमीशन पकड़ो साइड पे हो जाओ, राइट. तो बजाय इसके कि हम कोई ढंग की चीज सोच के बनाएं या कोई नया सोल्यूशन निकालें. अच्छा, दैट न्यू सोल्यूशन अनफॉर्चुनेटली इवन ऑन द मीडिया साइड इज नॉट बीइंग वेरी रिसेप्टिवली टेकन कि जी हम कोई नई चीज क्रिएट करते हैं या हम कोई नया आइडिया डेवलप करते हैं, तो देन देयर इज अ होल लॉट ऑफ हूप्स टू जंप थ्रू टू गेट दैट अप्रूव्ड, right? I'll give you two examples of my own clients. One of my clients is Mizan Bank, who advertised not on PSL but on the T20 World Cup a couple of years ago. And they were looking at it purely as a brand building exercise because they needed to increase their brand awareness. They did a research before that, and they did a second wave of that research after the advertising in the T20 World Cup, and they saw कि हाँ यार हमें वो हमारी जो brand awareness थी वो बढ़ गई. Yes, they did not perhaps sell more car loans or open more accounts or whatever, but जो brand awareness का उनका objective था वो achieve हो गया था. Right. Similarly, another brand that I think used this for awareness very well was Good Goodies when they launched. If you think about it, Good Goodies की as such कोई relevance PSL के साथ नहीं बनती है. ठीक है. So much so कि even the timing is off. I mean, March is not, March is not ideal time for advertising children's stuff because छुट्टियां आ रही होती हैं, stuff like that. लेकिन at that point, they wanted everybody to just hear about Good Goodies and know कि Good Goodies नाम की कोई चीज market में आ गया, and they had that really catchy jingle. that they ran. So if you have an objective and if you're willing to invest in that objective, तो बात ठीक है. I think brand awareness alone should not always be an objective. If you're a new brand or if you're struggling in that area, बात और है. But अब ये जो हमारे यहाँ होता है ना कि वो दस्तक भी दे रहे हैं, तो अब I mean, Shazad, don't take this the wrong way, but वो जबरदस्ती चाय भी पी जा रही है सेट पे बैठ के, and stuff like that. ये the forced brand implementation and integration is just off. So it's great to see that PSL, I had no idea it's 1.9 billion. It's a beautiful number, but it's great to see that it's grown in that direction. But I think it is the responsibility of the clients, the agencies, and more importantly, the media itself to also ensure that the kind of advertising जो आ रही है वो अच्छी हो. आप दें, आप किसी ब्रांड को ऑप्शन दीजिए कि भाई आप एक्स प्रॉपर्टी ले रहे हैं या आप वाई प्रॉपर्टी ले रहे हैं. इफ यू मेक इट X amount more or 2X or whatever, we will make this exclusive and we'll make sure कि आपकी कैटेगरी का कोई और प्लेयर इसमें नहीं आता है. जैसे कि ग्राउंड ब्रांडिंग वगैरह पे और बैंक्स के लिए रिस्ट्रिक्शंस होती हैं ड्यूरिंग द PSL बिकॉज ऑफ द टाइटल स्पॉन्सर. So and it could also be learning from examples like the Super Bowl, learning from examples like other international events. The PSL management can also ensure कि भाई इस तरह की चीज आप कर सकते हैं, इस तरह की चीज आप नहीं कर सकते. That could also sort of spur clients to move in the right direction. Because देखिए हमारे एंड पे एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ये भी होता है कि क्लाइंट ऑलरेडी PSL पे इतना इन्वेस्ट कर रहा होता है कि टू कन्विंस हिम टू गो फॉर समथिंग, टू इन्वेस्ट मोर इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्रिएटिव, इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन और डेवलपमेंट और एनीथिंग आउटसाइड द ग्राउंड, लाइक फिजा वाज सजेस्टिंग के स्किटल्स ने किया था. वो ऑलरेडी हो रहा था कि यार इस एक प्रॉपर्टी पे पहले ही बहुत पैसे लग चुके हैं. सो अगर प्रॉपर्टी इटसेल्फ की तरफ से रिस्ट्रिक्शंस होंगी कि आप किस तरह की इंटीग्रेशन कर सकते हैं, आपकी ब्रांड की क्या रेलेवेंस है. देखिए ये ऐसे ही है कि बाहर जब कोई फिल्म बनती है तो देयर आर कंटेंट इंटीग्रेशन कंपनीज हु कम एंड टेल यू कि हमारे पास ये स्क्रिप्ट है, इसमें इस किस्म के ब्रांड्स की गुंजाइश है. अब अगर वो मुझसे कह रहा है कि मेरे पास एक सेल फोन की, एक गाड़ी की और एक बेसबॉल बैट की गुंजाइश है और मैं जाके जबरदस्ती उसमें शैम्पू घुसाने की कोशिश करूं, तो ही विल नॉट एक्सेप्ट इट. ही से नहीं भाई, मेरी कहानी में शैम्पू की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं. So it's just going to look forced, right? I think that sort of effort needs to be made because, like Fiza Shahid was saying, yes, PSL is the platform to be on, and even the World Cup for that matter, T20 World Cup hota hai, it is the platform to be on if you want to get eyeballs, especially in a situation where people are very quickly moving away from TV. I think the attrition that we're having in terms from print and TV towards digital is happening much faster than any of us could have ever imagined. And I think it's creating a lot of very interesting work on the digital side as well, which is great. लेकिन असल बात यह है कि जब टीवी पे आपके पास एक इतनी अच्छी प्रॉपर्टी है, तो let's have some nice guidelines, let's have some proper integration there, and a lot of limitations on 1.9 billion पे मुझे कोई एतराज नहीं है. बट ये जो 1.9 बिलियन is spread into 1.9 billion clients, इस पे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम होता है.
This is actually very, very interesting and very insightful, Hassan. Thank you very much for it. Yes, the idea was to talk about the smart marketing, which is probably not by everybody is not happening. So there are a couple of brands that are doing it. We've of course seen the examples to it. And with this very interesting build-up, let me go to Noful. Noful, what's your take on this? I mean, have we seen the loss of creativity, or do you see the evolution of marketing that we are looking at in PSL as well?
Hey, thank you, Danish. So I just start off with a global and historical perspective of how these things came into being. तो जी हम देखते थे कि NFL या आपका सुपर बोल 1984 एक एप्पल का इश्तिहार स्टीव जॉब्स ने आधे पैसे देकर बनवाया था. तो दैट वर्क ब्रिलियंटली इन दैट मार्केट इन दैट एरा. और फिर वो बडवाइजर की जो आपकी ये लेजर्ड्स होती थी, वो दैट वर्क ब्यूटिफुली. बट वी नीड टू सी दिस थिंग कि इन दैट एरा टीवी वाज द ओनली मीडियम अवेलेबल. तो सारी जो है वो आईबॉल्स टीवी पर ही होती थी. अब होता यह है कि व्हाट आई see is the lack of creativity in a sense कि हम कंसेप्ट की हद तक तो क्रिएटिविटी के बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन मीडियम्स ऑफ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन को जो है वो हम बिल्कुल रद्द कर देते हैं। हम जो है वो टीवी पे स्टिक करते हैं। What we are not looking for is to integrate different mediums into that what do you call it, the whole creative campaign. अब जैसे मैं एक वो देता हूँ आप लोगों को एग्जाम्पल के टाइड एड का भी कोई पिछले 2 साल पहले एक इट्स अ टाइड एड सुपर बोल से शुरू हुआ एंड दे ट्रांसलेटेड दैट इनटू अ वेरी नाइस डिजिटल कैंपेन व्हिच लास्टेड ओवर लाइक 2 मंथ्स। उनसे उन्होंने बड़ा एक अच्छा सा एक लॉन्जेविटी बड़ी निकाल ली। द होल पॉइंट इज कि यहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि पीएसएल में जब मोस्टली ब्रांड्स सिर्फ हैमर करती हैं टीवी पे और या तो एक्टिवेशंस एंड दैट्स इट फॉर देम, यू नो, they don't really carry forward the whole premise to other mediums, and they don't really try to get the maximum ROI from their campaigns, you know. अभी जैसे अब ग्लोबली हम देखते हैं कि जी बड़ी बड़ी मजेदार चीजें लगी हैं। अभी मैं एक कोका कोला और शज़ाम की एक पार्टनरशिप पे ऐड देख रहा था, कोई साल शायद हुआ था कि वो कोका कोला की कैमरा जस्ट शट ऑफ। कैन यू गाइस वो सी मी? So, does anyone remember that Coca-Cola and Shazam ad? Say, all right. So what happened was Coca-Cola की एक वो जो बड़ी particular एक sound होती है बोतल खुलने की वाली. What they did was they integrated the Shazam with the Coke ad कि आप Coke ad TV पे चल रहा है, आप Shazam खोलें, उसको Shazam करें and get a free Coke bottle or something like that. You know, so that was engagement to another level altogether. You know, so what I C is the lack of engagement in PSL related ads. वो बस एक ads TVC spots तक की हद तक रह गए हैं कि अच्छा जी हम हैमर करते रहेंगे, शायद बंदा जो है वो engage हो जाए, शायद जो है वो जाकर मेरी जो है वो दूध खरीद ले या whatever we are selling. But what we are not doing is we are not stepping out of the box and trying to integrate other mediums in our marketing campaigns as a whole. So that is something that I see that there's a lot of gap in, and we should be doing these things, you know.
So Naufal,
So,
that
yeah,
actually that takes me to the point that I think almost 7-8 years ago when I was in Ogilvy, we were discussing it. So what we are doing is that we are still working on that big idea-based communication, और उसको हम बगैर किसी प्लेटफॉर्म की फिल्ट्रेशन के उठा के उस पर चेपते चले जाते हैं। उठाया, अडैप्ट किया, उठाया, अडैप्ट किया, उठाया, अडैप्ट किया. So integrated approach of that overall advertising seems to be missing. Now this I throw it to all of you. We can agree or disagree to it and with our native के हाँ हम उस integrated approach को शायद कहीं मिस कर रहे हैं कि हम अपने big idea को उस platform की base पे translate कर रहे हों. Am I correct?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. और more than that, sorry.
जी जी बोलिए.
More than that, एक और ग्लोबल ट्रेंड जो देखने को आ रहा है, जितनी ब्रांड्स जो है वो सुपर बॉल पे इन्वेस्ट कर रही हैं, उतनी ब्रांड सुपर बॉल छोड़ के जा भी रही हैं. जैसे आपका ये बर्गर किंग डिडंट एडवर्टाइज ऑन सुपर बॉल लास्ट ईयर, यू नो. So what the एक this Stella Artois is a beer brand जो कि उन्होंने कहा कि जी instead of us advertising on Super Bowl, we do a 3-day activation with a particular team which is playing in the Super Bowl, and that generated more eyeballs, you know. So that's just how to engage your target audience and how to do stuff smartly at a lower cost.
Brilliant. Acha, this question is for everybody. Simple sa hai. I mean, since it's related to guideline, and we are people from multiple disciplines, so हम अपने point of view से we can give our 2 cents के क्या हो सकता है. So the question is from Mr. Khalid Fateh, and he asked that I believe even if there are advertising and integration guidelines by sporting events, brands will still never adhere to it. चले, ये प्रॉब्लम ब्रांड्स की तरफ से है या मीडिया एजेंसीज की तरफ से है या एट द एंड ऑफ द डे पीसीबी की तरफ से, बिकॉज वी डोंट नो. दिस आंसर इज वेरी ऑन द surface answers. I will not completely agree to this question, but yes, I will agree to the overcome of where exactly this question came from. So अगर तो ये वहां पे है, do we need to go and address this? If we need to address this, keeping your own individual platform in mind, what sort of formulations, what sort of betterment that you guys can advise to it? So let's start with Fiza Shah, then Shehzad, then Fiza Shahid, Hassan, and Nofil can go one by one.
Yeah. So I think again जो हम पहले भी बात कर रहे थे PSL में हमने एग्जांपल्स की बात की, वी वर सेइंग के you know Pepsi Catch a Crore आया, then Head and Shoulders did the move a million, then Dastak also wanted to do a move, then a lot of other our brands also send us briefs and they say कि हमें भी एक move करनी है. So again वो एक एक trend बन गया. Coming to the sort of guidelines that you were that the question also is asking about, I think वो दोनों तरफ से है. There are certain limitations that we also find out about कि यार this is the parameter or ground में हम इतनी चीजें कर सकते हैं नहीं कर सकते हैं. But again, like I was referring to Super Bowl, and I think Nofil was also, that there's something beyond the ground, there's something beyond your TV screen. So we should sort of adapt ourselves and make our own guidelines. We make our own creative guidelines of how we approach all of this, and it doesn't have to be so restrictive कि मतलब अगर एक brand ने एक चीज की है, so that becomes a guideline for us, and फिर then all of the brands also start to sort of follow that, and वो फिर बोलते हैं कि अच्छा PSL में तो एक एक हम लोग जो है वो ये मूव करेंगे, एक जो है हम लोग वो करेंगे कि फॉर एग्जांपल वो जो आपके स्टैंडर्ड वो चीजें होती हैं, लाइक हसन वाज आल्सो सेइंग 4-6 ये वो सारी जो हमारी चीजें होती हैं हम वो करेंगे. So I just feel that we should evolve ourselves and make our own sort of flexible and creative guidelines.
Okay, so a lot of people give examples about NFL and probably Super Bowl. So just to give you a perspective, they have a very long history. So they have evolved. Probably their market has evolved over the years, and they as a platform has also evolved over years. For PSL, if you talk about, it's just been 5. This is the 5th year, and this was the first time that the tournament came to Pakistan. And the security and every other paraphernalia that we have to go through, which probably NFL does not have to go through. That has a very big impact as well. As far as the SOPs or the guidelines are concerned, PCB and PSL have guidelines. And this year around, because I have been part of PSL for the last 2 years, so I see a strict measure being put into place by PSL. They are now cutting on the brand exposure. They are limiting it. They are getting stricter, and they will get stricter. That's what I see in the future as well. And what we see as well, the overall spending would also increase. So to get a minute now, if you are spending across 800,000 rupees, probably that will go up to 1 million or 2 million rupees in future, and that will probably churn out some of the brands, because every brand would not have that muscle, does not have that deep pockets to bear that sort of investment. So we have to be patient, and probably with time we will evolve. And what the good part is, we have a platform now. We have a platform where probably can help us in terms of as a viewership as well, and it'll help us grow cricket in Pakistan as well, which was missing for the last good eight years. So that's the positive side to it.
ठीक है. एक second, Fiza, before you start. I think, Shehzad, the question, I think we may have come back to Fiza, to you as well. The question is, in your opinion, what are the betterments that you can recommend, or you can see that यार ये होनी चाहिए in order to make sure कि effective marketing भी हो सके. PSL की अपनी energy बहुत बहुत जबरदस्त है, because हमारे यहाँ PSL की सबसे बड़ी जो brand ambassadorship होती है, वो हमारे foreign players जब आते हैं पाकिस्तान में, तो उनको जो एक overwhelming experience मिलता है. We have seen the way, for past 5 years, Sir Vivian Richard actually celebrates his birthday with Pakistani people, and Unfortunately, other than their own brand custodians, nobody, PCB does never talks about it, which is actually quite surprising. They should be talking about it. Uh, we remember in this PSL that went, we were actually making joke about the fact that Darren Sami should get the Pakistani nationality in Pakistan because he loves Pakistan so much. So, and with respect to their experience with our neighbors, Premier League, their experience and their humility towards Pakistan is more personal than our neighbor. So ये तो PSL का अपना PCB के point of view से है, and thank you for highlighting the PCB is fixing their benchmarks. But my question is more towards in very focused way में what are the better things that we can do? जिस तरह हसन ने कहा था कि हम basically experience नहीं बेच रहे brand को. हाँ, इसमें आपका fault नहीं है, of course इसमें जो देने वाले हैं उनका fault है कि जी ये 6 स्पॉट ले लें, इन 6 स्पॉट पे आप अपना स्टॉल चला दें. वो ये कर रहे होते रादर देन एडवर्टाइजिंग, आपको बोलें कि हाँ आओ प्रॉपर एडवर्टाइजिंग करो, which इस दफा HBL tried but it was a very bad attempt because what they did was उन्होंने डायलॉग टू डायलॉग जो है वो वर्जन मोबाइल की कैंपेन को कॉपी पेस्ट कर दिया था. So let's talk on that perspective. Let's go a bit. Let's dive down a bit. Let's see that point a bit. Okay, what are the best things that we as Pakistani advertisers can recommend, which may become part of PSL for the 2021? So let's start with that kind of betterment.
Yeah, so I totally agree. There is room for improvement, and there will surely be room for improvement as we move forward. As जो examples probably जो quote हुए in terms of NFL, उधर भी spot ही चलता है. Probably कम spot चलते होंगे, इतनी frequency ज़्यादा नहीं होती, but चलता spot ही है. Then it comes down to the content. You talked about the Tide ad, you talked about the other creators. So that's more good creative rather than the platform. So the platform is not wrong for PSL. Probably it's the content that we are struggling with, and that's the onus on the brands and the creative side. Probably PSL cannot do. PSL is not a क्या कहते हैं आपकी कोई monitoring body है जो check करे कि content creatively scores पूरे आ रहे हैं कि नहीं आ रहे. It's more on the brand and creative side. They should probably take the onus and improve the content. As far as 360 is concerned, getting a lot of exposure through other avenues, which is outside ground, through that's one area that can be improved. And other platform like Nofal mentioned, Shazam, or other apps like digital apps where stream the all live matches, उस पे काफी integration हो सकती है because वो digital where we get a room वहाँ पे customization हो सकती है, which should be done. And surely what I see in the future would be done by brands.
जी फिजा, शाहिद आप बताइए क्योंकि आपका मीडिया स्ट्रैटेजी से है कनेक्शन. So what in your opinion should be the betterment effects और वो सारी चीजें हो सकती हैं.
So firstly, कुछ discussion हुई थी about questioning the relevance of brands in PSL. So a point to think about or a point to ponder about is we consume brands in our daily lives, right? And we consume them in our household. We consume tea in the household. We consume cupcakes in the household. We consume candy, chocolate, everything in the household. And PSL is being watched in the same household. So people who are questioning why it is not relevant for brands to be present on PSL, I'd like you all to think about like that, because all of Pakistan is watching it. So it makes absolute sense for people to be using this platform. Once we've established the fact that it is an effective platform, we then need to look at how we are communicating on that platform. So there are multiple things that you can do. So a lot of focus is being driven right now on people just showing ads on TV, but there are multiple other ways you can communicate to your audience on the topic of PSL or via PSL. एंग्रो ने जैसे आपने एग्जांपल दी थी, एंग्रो ने एक टीम स्पॉन्सरशिप की, राइट? So there are team sponsorship opportunities that you can go for, and there is a lot of creative room in that as well. There are on-ground opportunities that you can go for. Then you can also engage your consumers digitally on PSL, because PSL is not just being watched on TV; it's also being watched on YouTube. So there is room to think about that. And when we compare PSL to Super Bowl and NFL, it is important to remember that those two events have a lot of heritage and history behind them. And PSL compared to that, um, it's a baby. Like 2016 is when we started doing PSL. So the platform has come leaps and bounds from where it started off, and even doing PSL at that time was a major feat in itself because of the security issues. And while we're talking about how brands are not using it or using it effectively, we need to know how the good that it has done for Pakistan as well. So Danish, जैसे आपने mention किया, there's a lot of it attracts a lot of outside players as well, foreign players as well. It brings tourism to our country. It's put Pakistan on a platform, and it's made Pakistan visible. And because of PSL, we can now say that it is a platform that stands in the top cricketing events of the world. So there is room to think like that. As far as advertising guidelines and policies are concerned, there are some, but all brands are also vying for that same space. So there is bound to be some sort of clutter present over there, and it is up to brands, and it is up to those who design the messaging to make sure that they're communicating in an effective way. So there have been some really great campaigns as well. I don't know if people remember what Sprite did last year. That was a very effective campaign. I would like to commend Tapal as well, because cricket is a platform for all, and tea is a brand. It's a commodity for all, and they're trying to own that platform. So that's a great integration. Pepsi Catch a Crore is a great integration. There have been some, like I said, hits and misses, and I'm sure everybody likes to make fun of that. But advertising guidelines होने के बावजूद भी onus हम पे आएगी, PCB पे नहीं होगी, how we use those advertising guidelines. I hope I was able to answer your question.
बिल्कुल ठीक, बिल्कुल ठीक. Yeah, Hasan, I would disturb you for this, and this is, uh, I mean, with your experience, what do you think are the betterments that we can do in terms of advertising, in terms of communicating things, or what sort of innovation we can bring in?
Danish, to respond to what Fiza was saying, there is absolutely no doubt about what PSL as a platform has done for Pakistan in terms of giving us entertainment, in terms of putting us on the map, all of that. I mean, there can be no discussion on that. My issue, like I said before, was कि मैं कह रहा था ना कि 1.9 billion rupees से मसला नहीं है, 1.9 billion companies से मसला है कि वो जो over branding है, and I see somebody just commented this on the YouTube thing also. They're saying that the over branding kills the experience of PSL. I think उसको थोड़ा सा control करने की जरूरत है कि जो हर जगह हर चीज में जबरदस्ती, and that's what I was saying initially also, and of course you're right कि पीसीबी का ओनर्स तो अपनी जगह, लेकिन एज कस्टोडियंस ऑफ द ब्रांड, बिकॉज हम भी इन अ वे कस्टोडियन ऑफ द ब्रांड होते हैं, और जो ब्रांड ओनर्स हैं वो तो हैं ही. आई थिंक हमारी भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है कि यार एक चीज को बस एक, अब जस्ट गो ऑफ टॉपिक अ लिटिल बिट, आजकल कोरोना में भी एग्जैक्टली यही हो रहा है. Everybody, somebody will put out a good piece of, I'm sorry, but it's true. Somebody will put out a good piece of content, and everybody wants, यार क्या हम ऐसी वीडियो नहीं बना सकते, क्या हम ऐसे पोस्ट नहीं बना सकते, क्या हम ऐसा कंटेंट जल्दी से जनरेट नहीं कर सकते. kudos to the one who thought of it first, but unfortunately ये जो हमारा copycat syndrome है, इसको I think we all as all of us creatives also need to work really hard to ensure कि इसको हम थोड़ा सा डाउन प्ले करें, एंड इनकरेज द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ ओरिजिनल आइडियाज. आपने जो एग्जांपल दी थी पाकिस्तान टोबैको वाली, मोरन गोल्ड वाली, I mean that's the kind of thinking. Pepsi Catch a Crore, I think is brilliant. It's a wonderful idea, and so on. And ये जो जैसे वो है ना, the hit a sixer वाली चीज, ये brands like Volvo and so on have done it forever. वो इंटरनेशनल टूर्नामेंट्स में गाड़ियां ले जाके खड़ी कर देते हैं कि जी अगर गाड़ी पे आप शॉट लगेगा तो यू विन द कार, एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सो ये जरूर है, बट आई थिंक brands need to push us as creatives to get out of this mediocrity that we sometimes get stuck into. And there are also times that when we the creatives need to push the brand to say कि नहीं यार ये नहीं करेंगे, let's do something better, let's think of something better. uh, Too many times, I think we come out of those meetings and those boardrooms giving in too quickly because हमें लगता है कि हम ज्यादा लड़ेंगे तो शायद client नाराज हो जाएगा, या but I think we need to push harder, and I think we need to get that message across. We're working for you as a team. There are so many times when I've actually tried this and it's worked. When I literally tell the client, "Look, it's your money. At the end of the day, खर्च मैंने खर्च करने आपके behalf पे खर्च करने, but all I'm trying to explain to you is कि कोई बेहतर चीज कर लीजिए." And sometimes it works, sometimes you get thrown out of the boardroom, but that's the way it is. But I completely agree that there is a lot of room for betterment. वो betterment आएगी brand side से या creative side से ही. PCBC in terms of PSL particularly, the only thing I would want in the future is that PCB cuts down on the overbranding. That's all. Limit the number of players, brand players who are in PSL, and I am sure that will result in better stuff coming out rather than कि हम इसी चक्कर में पड़े रहें कि किसी तरह हमें PSL में जगह मिल जाए, चाहे ग्राउंड में मिल जाए, चाहे टीवी पे मिल जाए, एक चैनल पे नहीं मिलती तो दूसरी पे मिल जाए, कहीं बस हम आ जाएं किसी तरह, तो हम उस जंग से बाहर निकलें और अच्छी क्रिएटिव की तरफ आना शुरू हों. तो आई थिंक दैट विल हेल्प. And yes, like Shazad said, like Fiza said, उसका onus आता तो end of the day agencies पे और clients पे ही है ज़्यादा, not so much the media itself. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Actually, you're very spot on. You're exactly correct. Uh, कि more or less जो responsibility है और more or less तो पूरा का पूरा ownership है, वो at the end of the day agencies और brands पे आ जाती है, because PCB ने तो वही देना है जो वो देगा. उसको क्रिएटिवली कैसे इस्तेमाल करना है वो हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, स्टेक होल्डर्स, एज ब्रांड कस्टोडियंस, as agencies, and as well as of course the brand at the end of the day itself. So yes, very very insightful questions. Some people agree with you that PSL is being used as a platform is not a problem, but overdoing the branding and overdoing the marketing is, we may have to address this kind of situation. So Nofil, after you talk about this, we have one very specific question from Karachi Creatives. Okay, somebody from Karachi Creatives, Taha Hanif from Tapal. So we'll take it up with Shehzad on that. So Nofil, up to you.
So I'll just correct short. I think I agree with Hassan a lot on this. We are stuck in this perpetually mediocrity वाली दुनिया जहाँ पे हम जो है वो push नहीं कर पा रहे as agencies or as clients के यार कुछ बड़ा करते हैं, कुछ नया करते हैं. We fall back to the comfort zone where everybody's happy कि अच्छा जी बड़ा comfortable environment है, nothing can go wrong. बहुत ज्यादा वर्स्ट केस सिनेरियो भी इतना वर्स्ट केस नहीं होगा क्योंकि we get fired from our jobs, either from our agencies or our brands or whatever. So I think I agree with Hassan a lot over this कि unless and until जैसे आपने Morgan वाली example दी कि Laxon was stuck in a corner, the bigger brand had actually cornered it, and that is when the creativity started flowing कि अच्छा जी हमारे पास 6x6 की एक जगह है, जो करना है इसी में करना है. तो जब कश्ती डूब रही होती है तब the ideas start coming in. So I think as agencies we need to put ourselves in a factor because I have like been working with brands and I've had my own brands, and when you have only 2 rupees to spend, the guerrilla marketing techniques start flowing in. So you need to put yourselves in the positions कि चाहे आपके पास करोड़ों का ही बजट क्यों ना हो, लेकिन let's just try thinking along that perspective जहाँ पे कुछ नया करके सोचते हैं. So I think that's the thing unless we push ourselves as people who are responsible to take this industry forward, कुछ हो नहीं पाएगा. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Very interesting. Acha, that actually gave me a very interesting question to ask everybody. I think we can all jump in and get. This is rather like a quiz or वो जो नहीं कहते हैं एक सवाल होता है, either this or that. Pakistan have a very interesting mix of local brands and foreign brands that equally put their input in the advertising of PSL. In our opinion, overall, पैसों की बात नहीं करते, effectiveness की बात करते हैं. Which brands do you think are more effective, the local brands or the foreign brands? Doesn't matter whatever the budgets are. What do you think?
There are no particular brands coming to my mind right now. Maybe koi aur would, somebody else would like to contribute. Like I feel the local brands like tend to do it better. पैसे कम होते हैं, सर्वाइवल का इशू होता है, तो वही क्रिएटिविटी जो है वो फ्लो होती है फिर.
Yeah, this question is for everybody. आप बताएं, what do you think? What is your opinion on this?
So your question is whether local brands or international brands are more effective in terms of communicating on PSL. Well, see, even with international brands, they're appealing to a local market, right? So if Sprite is talking to you or Pepsi is talking to you, it's Pepsi Pakistan talking to you, or it's Sprite Pakistan talking to you, right? So I mean, they're multinationals, but they're appealing to a local audience. And
no. फिजा नहीं, ये नहीं. सवाल is in your opinion so far, is the foreign brand, बेशक वो local team के साथ ही बात कर रहा है, is more effective in PSL, or has been the local brand have been more opinion? For example, in my point of view, the local brands have been more effective, be it Anglo, be it Tapal, be it Cool and Cool, जो कि locally ज़्यादा effectively चीजें कर रहे हैं. So that is one my question is. Shahzad will come to you as well for this, and of course Fiza, Shah, and Hassan as well.
So the only way I can answer this question to you is if international brands were not as effective as we think they are, they wouldn't be advertising on year on PSL. So we see a lot of international brands जो कि पहले साल से लेके अभी तक advertise कर रहे हैं, and I'm sure they wouldn't have done that if they didn't realize that it was an effective platform for them. As far as local brands go, you also see a lot of local brands who are just advertising on PSL, and the rest of the year they're advertising very minimally. So across all brands, the reason why it's an effective platform is because it's being watched by everybody, and I'm sure brands also realize the power of this platform, which is why they continue to invest on it. If you look at the number of brands who have advertised from 2016 to now, you'll see that it's grown year on year. The number of advertisers that PSL attracts has increased year on year, and that's only because it speaks volumes to the kind of business results that they're getting as well. And I'm sure Shahzad can add to this in terms of the kind of sales or the kind of brand health numbers that they're seeing for their brand.
So
if you
have to choose between, if I have to choose, I would surely pick the local ones. I believe they are clear-cut winners in terms of branding. They have experimented a bit more versus the MNCs, probably because they have stronger guidelines as well. And I believe from personal experience as well, PSL has been a good addition to what we have been doing. It has resulted in a lot of increase in Tom scores for our brands. And not just PSL. To give you example, we recently did Kabaddi World Cup as well, which was a one-off event, and we did it with a regional brand, and it was a very good event, and it get a lot of eyeballs. It get a lot of helped us build the brand awareness towards and overall awareness of the brand. So to sum it up, yeah, local brand would be the winners in this.
Yeah, I think I sort of agree to what Shahzad is saying, and I think the reason would also be because local brands are also very much visible. So आपको हर जगह जो है वो local brands जो है BSL में नजर आ रहे होंगे. So I can't unfortunately recall any global brand sort of coming in PSL. What I recall are very much our local HBL to Tapal to Dastak to Cool and Cool, like you said. So in terms of visibility, yes, they are winners. And I think effectiveness wise, the top of mind definitely. We also get results from our clients where they do say that it's always a good idea to sort of investing in PSL. The only reason is that because your top of mind increases, and the brand is entering the consideration set for the consumers. So in that sense, I think the local players are sort of winning the game.
Nofal, what do you think?
Well, I think, yeah, I agree with Fiza, and that's the thing. I would stick to my earlier perspective. कि जब आपके पास when you're a cornered brand and you have not a lot don't have a lot of perspective, so you try to think out of the box, and that is when the real creativity flows, and that is coming from running a lot of guerrilla campaigns during Kachikolia, during my other campaign or during my other startups as well, because we didn't have a lot of budget to put out huge campaigns, and whatever we had to do with a small amount of money. Danish, what do you think is what the question is about the brands? So what do you think, which brands are doing it better in Pakistan at least?
यार I'll be honest, मेरे हिसाब से तो PSL पर अगर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू में फोकस रखते हुए करते हो, I personally think Angro did an amazing job because I actually saw their 360-degree campaign, and I was not their agency. I actually saw them doing on ground, doing digital, doing activation, and from the fact that they were very active, they like the corporate communication team was working on it. तो उनका मेरे हिसाब से I don't know their brief, but I could see that the brief was engage as many people as possible, because for them it was not about just promoting one thing of Angro, but overall all the factories of Angro all together. In terms of FMCG brands, in terms of any other communication, it was a lot of fizzle out. It's exactly like the Ufone wala ad, जो एक जमाने में बहुत top of the town थे, because they were funny, but nobody can recall a single message out of them. Everybody could say यार बहुत मजे का ad था, लेकिन message क्या था किसी को कुछ नहीं पता. So it eventually became like that. कूल एंड कूल की भी जो एक कैंपेन अगर इफेक्टिव लगी शुरू में, जिसको बहुत ज्यादा मजाक उड़ाया गया, वो कोविड टाइम पे आके लोगों को इफेक्टिव लगी कि जब टॉस भी करना है तो आपने सैनिटाइजर इस्तेमाल करके करना है. सो बिफोर दैट इट वाज एक्चुअली नॉट मेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ सेंस. सो लाइक कोई बात है कि एक रेलेवेंसी का जो एस्पेक्ट है जिसको हम शुरू से हाईलाइट करते चले जा रहे हैं, और वो रेलेवेंसी को किस तरह आपने लेकर आना है. आप रेलेवेंसी ऑफ ब्रांड कंज्यूमर से तो कनेक्ट करके दिखा रहे हैं, लेकिन आप ओवरऑल फीलिंग नहीं दे रहे उसकी. वो एक्सपीरियंशियल मार्केटिंग वाला एलिमेंट है, वो मिस कर रहे हैं. सो आई बिलीव हासिम, यू कैन टेक इट फ्रॉम हियर एंड देन यू कैन फर्दर ऐड वैल्यू टू द क्वेश्चन, एंड वी टेक थिंग्स अप फ्रॉम देयर.
Danish, I would tend to agree with you and with most of the other people that obviously local brands are able to do a better job in terms of visibility and all of that. However, इसकी एक flip side भी होती है कि जो आपके foreign brands होते हैं, obviously there are times when they have much bigger budgets, and there are times when effectiveness is directly proportional to visibility on TV or in the field or whatever. तो वहाँ एक थोड़ा सा hit होता है. I think yes, local brands are doing good job. I think एक अब post COVID world में एक बहुत interesting challenge आएगा where budgets are going to get cut, and we're going to it will be interesting to see what kind of solutions come out. Nofal was saying कि when you're pushed into a corner तो बड़ी अच्छी चीज निकल के आती है. But and somebody just commented this also. There's somebody here, Khatija Amin, saying even if the agency brings some out of the box idea and asks PCB if it can be done, they ask for so much money that it takes up the brand's whole year's budget. This happened to us exactly this year with PSL. We had a brilliant on-ground idea. It was something that had never been done in PSL before. The client fell in love with it. PSL fell in love with it. Everybody fell in love with it, and then they asked for so much money that वो client क्या वो उसकी शायद पूरी industry भी afford ना कर पाती. तो अब and then it never happened. तो ये भी एक problem है. और फिर end क्या हुआ कि यार वो इतने करोड़ वाला पैकेज खरीद लेते हैं. So that whole thing that we were very excited about and we came up with, उसमें brand की integration भी थी, relevance भी थी, सब कुछ था. All of it went out of the window, and it just came down to that. अब क्या होगा in the post-COVID scenario? I don't know. Maybe Shazad can educate us on what sort of budget cuts can be expected if Shazad you have such numbers at the moment. But I think it is generally held perception के budget cuts होंगे across the board होंगे तमाम brands में होंगे हम already देख रहे हैं even on the digital side and stuff. So where is this 1.9 billion का number going to go? How are the local brands going to be able to do it? And to go back to, I think Fiza mentioned the Skittles, where they actually did not advertise on the Super Bowl. They advertise outside the Super Bowl, but around it. And I think that is something that a lot of local brands could perhaps think about. That if you want to capitalize on PSL, maybe you don't need to be on that bus to capitalize on it. Maybe you can just be everywhere around that bus, but not on the bus itself. I hope that sort of answers the question.
Yes, so I agree with so one of the brand that I was talking to a friend yesterday only and told me there was a brand who did not have budgets to advertise in PSL, so they advertised outside PSL, but they had a cricket relevant copy. So what happens on in PSL, people acceptance or towards cricket increases. So anything good related to cricket will surely get you eyeballs. So there would be smarter ways to play around it. And as we move forward with the more cuts on the budget sides, economy probably going down, we'll see smarter solutions, and that's what that's the only way to survive. And brands will have to make smarter choices in order to get a better return on their investment.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
And
Guys, we have
just to top up on that, ये जो smarter solutions की बात होती है, sorry Danish, just take a minute on this. But I think this is something that we as creators needs to start thinking about as well. Generally, the creative team doesn't really think about कि इसकी cost क्या होगी, इसका क्या होगा. We always encourage them, यार तुम सोचो, तुम ख्वाब देखो, उसको implement करना हमारा काम है. But I think now we're going to have to move to a situation where we start teaching our creatives also to think accordingly. जैसे एक जमाने में डिजाइनर्स को समझाते थे कि यार अखबार के लिए जब एड बनाते हो या प्रिंट के लिए कोई चीज बनाते हो तो ये सोचना कि जब ये अखबार में छपेगा तो इसका क्या असर होगा. If you're making a logo and it's very intricate and beautiful, so always see कि वो जो 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter होके business card पे छपेगा, so how is it going to look? So that sort of thinking, I think, will need to come on the creative side now also in terms of executions. How smart is my creative in terms of execution, in terms of talkability, in terms of going beyond what is simply doing or what its role is. Uski economies kya hongi?
I completely agree, Hassan. As much as I've been the client service person and the strategy person for my brands, I still will take the side of my creative by saying, "Ke yaar, there was a time when all the creatives were they used to tend to think wild. Unfortunately, हम नहीं इनको इतना वो दबा के रखा कि नहीं आपने इतना वाइडिंग सोचा, आपने सेफ जोन में रह के सोचना है और hence the trickle down effect that we see." Shehzad, before you say, I have a question for you. And that question is actually, I'm just going to rephrase it a bit because that is actually going to help us, all advertisers, to understand from your perspective about of the KPIs of success. And, it may help you from your agency or us for our clients in future when we are working for PSL. So the question from Taha Hanif came was that, what do you call successful marketing KPI for PSL?
आवाज थोड़ी break हो रही है.
Hello. So the question is, what do you call successful marketing KPI for PSL for Tapal? How does Tapal know that they have hit the dot? So, I mean, what is the success criteria at the end of the day?
Danish, I cannot hear you properly.
Okay. मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि जो सवाल है वो है, what do you call a successful marketing KPI for PSL? Oh, he went offline. अच्छा. So there is
So
one question from.
if I could help and jump in. In terms of successful metrics and how you measure the effectiveness of a platform, you look at something called your brand health indicators, and you look at how your brand recall, how your ad recall, and how your top of mind awareness has gone up after a certain activity. So
Either
there's
don't you
that.
think that's too generic?
But that helps you track how your brand is performing, over a period of time. Other than that, obviously you can look at sales, but advertising or sales ka correlation, to build that, it takes a lot of research, and I'm sure everybody knows that, who's viewing and who's on the platform right now, that the correlation is only built over time. And for platforms like PSL, the brand objectives that directly can contribute to your decision of whether to advertise on PSL or not are basically, your top of mind, your ad recall, and your brand recall.
So do we do any brand positioning assessment after this? Because I've never seen any brand positioning assessment or brand value proposition assessment in Pakistan. Have we done any brand value proposition in Pakistan assessment to speak? Hassan, care to
Uh,
let me know if there is any?
I've never heard of one. I was just going to agree with what Fiza was saying. Because I would love to be able to say that the KPI is going to be sales, and my sales are going to go through the roof, and that's going to be the success of the PSL campaign. But unfortunately, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip, right? So it's not just ke aapne ad dekha and you will immediately go and buy something. ये एक बड़ा process होता है, and it takes time. In the digital world, it's much easier. You see an ad, you click, e-commerce, transaction done. You know exactly कि वो source कहाँ से आया था, क्या हुआ था, क्या नहीं हुआ था. But in the brick and mortar world, it's not quite that simple. So you have to rely on things like brand health studies. I gave you the example of Mizan Bank in the beginning, where they did a brand health study before they ran their T20 World Cup campaign. Then they went all out, they did that campaign, and then they did a study afterwards. Basically, their objective was at that point to see how effective TV advertising is for them. Being an Islamic bank, उन पे बड़ी restrictions हैं कि वो कहाँ advertise कर सकते हैं, कहाँ नहीं कर सकते, etc. etc. So cricket was this one thing where they could, and they did, and they found that yes, it definitely worked, because there was a marked difference. I mean, I can't go into the exact numbers, but there was a marked difference in the brand health surveys. Now, obviously, on some level, that is going to trickle down and result in customer acquisition and stuff like that. Lekin it's not that easy to link that customer acquisition directly, at least for like a bank, for example, to your advertising on PSL. Shazad is back. Maybe Shazad can tell us if what Shazad, like, what was the original question was, what are the KPIs against which you would consider that Tapal's campaign on PSL has been successful? How do you know that you've hit the bullseye?
So usually in terms of researches, you get your TOM scores, your overall awareness scores, your GRPs, CPRPs. So these are the hardcore numbers that you get. Apart from that, beyond that, what you get is a feel, talkability, social responses that you get on your Facebook pages. You talk to people, you get a sentiment out of it. So if you talk about in our first edition when we did PSL, to quote an example, at that time there was a very heightened pressure between India and Pakistan, and वो अभिनंदन वाला पूरा episode हुआ था, and we were advertising very heavily in PSL, and people associated us versus the other any other tea brand with Abhinandan, जो पूरा एक saga हुआ था. I hope you like the tea wala, if you remember. So these are some of the experiences through which you get the feel that your campaign or your activity or your integration has been noticed or not. And before I drop, Hassan, जैसे बात आप कर रहे थे कि smarter solution क्या होंगे post COVID. So what I believe in future, what happened is जो हमारे पास luxurious हमारी productions होती थी, वो शायद नहीं हो. मैंने अभी recently TVC देखा, जो सेलिब्रिटी ने खुद ही शॉट्स किए थे और वो कंपाइल करके ब्रांड ने ऑन एयर कर दिया है. So that sort of solutions will come into play. Now probably will not have bigger, पूरी जो हमारी फिल्में होती थी 30 सेकेंडर्स की, पूरा फिर shebang होता था उसमें, एक set होता था, proper होता था, वो सारी शायद now we'll cut down on that, and probably message would now take center stage, and one example of this would be smarter execution. It would be done differently this time around.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. I believe that concludes the session. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, Hassan, Nofil, Fiza Shahid, Shahzad. Very, very valuable discussion, and I actually learned a lot out of it. Yeah, so inshallah, we'll look forward for any other topic and any other session, and we'll make sure that we reconnect and we, discuss these kind of positive things again. Thank you very much, Karachi Creative, for organizing this activity for all of us in order to come and discuss everything. Ji. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz and have a nice day.
Thank you, Ji. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Allah
Bye,
Hafiz.
guys.